But I think the good news is that what the conversation has forced us to do is to interrogate it in the first place. So until we were sort of talking more broadly about the use of data, the use of in stitching it together into every facet of business, that the discussion was the domain of a really relatively small number of folks. And so what we're doing now is actually having an open discussion about, hey, what data sets are we using? What bias is baked into those? How can we be aware of it? How do we interrogate it to try to minimize that impact as much as possible? And then when we layer a tool on top of that data set, how are we thinking very carefully about how that tool was trained, how that bias that has been now baked into the tool will influence our outcomes and so on. Again, the bad news is that bias exists all around us. It's baked into what we do as humans. The good news is we're having the conversation and interrogating the data and the tools in a way that we can then stand behind what that output's going to be. I won't claim that the language is mine, but the tweet was that there are no AI-shaped holes lying around waiting to be filled. What the tools are doing is taking the way that we think about information, process information, the logic flows that we learn and develop over time as we come up in our career and gain experience. We're taking that and codifying it in software. And so you need to think differently about what that means for your workflow, right? You need to start thinking about the steps that you take from, I have to do this thing to get to this output, right? And what are the steps that are happening in between? Where might generative AI play a role in accelerating bits of that? What do I need to think about as a consequence of using that technology, right? Because it doesn't work like a calculator. At the end of the day, it's a predictive model. It's spitting out things that it thinks is going to make you happy and keep engaged in the tool. And so that has implications in terms of the work that you get done. And so you need to start thinking in these kind of workflow oriented ways.